is that Uncharted 4 is not an open world game. That means it's bigger, is more horizontal space within it, but it is not open world. That's a good thing to remember as we move forward. So let me switch my audio over and we will start. So I've moved forward just a little bit. What we've done is we've started in Nathan Drake's home. Now, this is the home that he shares with Elena. This is a couple levels after the original starting, but I really wanted to start here because I feel that this is sort of where things start to get going. The first thing I want to make sure everybody does is make sure that you keep an eye on the way this home is set up, because it will matter. There's some foreshadowing in the future, including how cluttered it is. One of the things I enjoy is they've spread around a lot of reminders of Elena and Nathan, especially like here, you're going to see a Polaroid downstairs, but you can look through the pictures and stuff and his little comments, and it all looks very cool. But if you listen closely, there's a lot of foreshadowing here in the entire part of this game. I really love that. I also love the fact that you look out the window and you see this actual location. They're like people walking dogs, and there's a safety to it that you can almost feel, especially even from the starting, you can almost feel Nathan sort of chafing against. I think you see a cop car occasionally too out there. Of course, we see all this clutter. And the first thing that I thought when I first started playing the game and I didn't know the ending, I didn't know the entire thing, is I was like, oh, they're just, I guess, really busy or something. And they don't have a chance to clean up, because I noticed it wasn't just here. It was pretty much everywhere in their home. But there's some really cool foreshadowing here. This is not just done on accident. One of the things you always have to understand, that when developers create a game, nothing is on accident. There's just no chance of doing that. It's too much money, right? And what I mean is created on accident. I don't mean good accidents don't happen in gameplay, but you don't create a bunch of towels on the floor just because you want to spend some cash and pay some texture artist to make them. This is great here. You can sort of look through. Now listen. We really need to go on another vacation. It's just one more little element that some stuff is just slightly off, and by itself, it's completely innocuous. But as we start to move forward, it's not. I also have to say, this is the book that she's working on, by the way. I have to say that the reflections in this room are just fantastic. One of the things you'll notice is the reflections of everything else are within any other reflective surface. So if there's a window, you see it in the paintings. If there's a painting and it's got a gossamer reflection on it, you're going to see it in a screen of the computer. It's all there. Very, very well done. Also, they did a really good job on having a darker environment with a lot of color, but still not having an issue with you being able to see, which happens in games like Alan Wake. And I love this foreshadowing here, because this is an impossible picture, unless, of course, you hired somebody to take a picture of your asses. I like this picture, and it sort of pays off at the end of the game. I think it's very cool. And just this look, security system. Oh, there's a cop car, yeah, driving by. There's a safety here. And some of this stuff that we see, some of the way the house is set up, sort of pays off in explaining that neither one of them are perfect or happy.
I was.
Also, I think this is one of the musical choices I actually do like. A little guitar in the background. You can't really tell if it's just on the iPod, which it is, but it's sort of also supposed to be the soundtrack. Now here you can pull a Nathan Drake. It's hilarious. You can grab a beer or a cola, but whichever one you get, you just crack and then put right back down. It's actually just sort of like, why was that there? Love the subdued look here. Yeah, see, I'm going to try to bring it to nothing. Damn it. Dirty dishes. Yeah, this is just, it's such a great small amount of foretelling of what's occurring, but it's really interesting and important to look at the way the house is and how it's set up, because that foreshadowing we see in a later level, it blew my mind. It completely surprised me when I got to it. So now he gets his, I can't tell if this is supposed to be salad or dry cereal. It looks like a fork, so I'm assuming it's salad, but whatever it is, it looks a little scary.
Done.
Now, for some of this, I'm not going to talk and just let them talk, even though it's a walking the walk we want to go over. First of all, we know that the animators have stated that a lot of this was mocapped, but then there was also animations as well, and they wanted to make sure it was seamless. Seamless, of course, meaning that you won't be able to tell the difference between the animated spots where a technician put it together versus a person. And I'm telling you, there isn't a time, except for a couple resets of animation you see, where you can identify the difference between the two. Especially Elena, who most likely a lot of her mocap is following the actress, and the actress is a fairly good actress. She does a lot of secondary animations. You notice a lot of characters do. That pays off really well in making these characters feel real. But just very good facial animations here. Very good portrayal of emotions. Now, in a moment here, you're going to see Elena touch her ear when she answers something. Listen, watch this.
Well,
That is great. That's actually a really cool emotional tell about somebody trying to like get the information from their brain. You know, whenever you're calculating, doing math, or you're trying to come up with something, a detailed answer to something, many times you look away and you can see her look up and away. Now, here's the moment where he loses sort of focus. I'm going to stop talking so we can watch this again. Listen to this entire discussion and definitely check Elena's face.
Ah. What?
where are you?
I'm in here being stabbed with a fork.
Oh, really?
What? Just keep going. It was interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. What's my article about?
What? This one?
Mm-hmm.
It's about, the lost city of Bangkok. Not of Bangkok. Lost cities near Bangkok. In or about the city limits of Bangkok.
Wow.
All right, I'm sorry.
No, it was valiant. It
I was in the
really
ballpark, right?
in a different state, but yeah, you were in a ballpark. Jameson asked you about that Malaysia job again.
Jameson always asks me about the Malaysia job.
Look, Nate, I really think that you should take it.
You know what? I don't want it. Really?
First, he's a complete liar. But one of the things I liked is when Elena actually asked about the job, if you watch very closely, you can see her eyelids flutter, which is actually a really cool psychological tell of somebody bringing up an emotional or stressful statement. Many times it's just an emotional tell. The human brain is like, I need to protect the soft, gooey parts of my body. And so sometimes you'll see the eyelid flutter. It's different than looking away. It's actually, closing your eyes, blocking the eyes. Very cool. I've never seen that in a video game yet, ever. And that was the first time that I really felt like this solidified these characters and made them feel like real people. Just the little nuances like there. Additionally, watch this right here. Watch her reaction when he challenges her to the game.
Yeah, your little TV game thing. I bet I can beat your high score.
You think that you can beat my high score on my TV game thing?
Yeah, I think you're scared now.
You don't even know what it's called.
I don't need to know what it's called. I've seen you play. It's
Right.
jumping and running, and I have a natural talent
Oh,
for that.
really?
So, what do you say, chicken? Is it a bet?
Oh, wow. Okay, cowboy.
Okay, so to me, the best part of that entire sequence is the reaction on her face when he challenges her, calls her chicken, nothing, and then when he makes the sound, that instant surprise reaction of it's on, that kind of thing. Those are very difficult emotions to get characters to portray in any way realistically. Additionally, there's just issues all over when it comes to how they can do that with motion rigging and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's motion rigged and then adjusted with animation, or if that's just how good, motion capture is getting when it comes to facial animations. It's really, really insane. So one more little bit before we move forward is the introduction of Sam. This is incredibly important to the game. And I think that we look at it from a storytelling bit first. We look at it from why Nathan is going to do what he does. So he's not happy. He's doing his paperwork. You can even tell prior to this, his stamping, like everything, the way he was acting at home, the way he's acting here, even his answer, which I didn't put in this video, but when his boss asks him about the job, and you can tell he wants to do it, right? He does. And he's in his attic, and his attic looks like this cluttered place of all these memories. And you can tell he likes to surround himself around this. So the same thing's happening here with Sam. Some of these reasons for him to move forward. He thinks his brother's been dead. His brother is not dead, and his brother shows up. He's happy, right? We see this. We see these reactions. But at the same time, what we're going to see is something incredibly well done. And that is when Sam and him get over this moment, all of a sudden you realize that Nate understands that the trouble has actually begun. He's already had his issues, and he's already been having his issues. But there's this moment when he realizes that the person he loves, Sam, is back, but Sam's always been slightly a troublemaker. Now, so is Nate, but Sam even more so. And Sam maybe has some of the moral flexibility that Nathan doesn't. We know Nathan's been having issues, and then his brother says this. Now remember, he hasn't really reacted yet. He hasn't reacted much to his brother being back except for hugging.
Come back.
But here's what Sam says.
Important now, though, is that I'm out.
And boom, Nathan realized what just happened, and he collapses and says the one thing most people say when they want to get away. That is incredibly good storytelling. Here's why. Nathan didn't react that way until there was the conviction in Sam's voice, I'm back. It sort of breaks through Nate thinking all these weird, strange thoughts, and Nate finally realizes that his own problems, plus his troublemaker brother, are back in the same area, and he's not stupid. He knows what that means. He knows something is going on. At the absolute minimum, his brother, who had killed somebody as well as him, are returning, and he has to tell his wife. That is such amazing storytelling. And I think it was right then that I realized that sort of Naughty Dog figured out where they were supposed to be going with the story. The past Uncharted games just really have not had anywhere near that good of storytelling. They've been far more in your face. There's no nuance, very little nuance. And here, you not only have the nuance of the facial features, the reactions of Elena, but you have this double bump moment of all of these different thoughts coming back and hitting Nate at one time. And that's going to matter, and I'll make it pay off for you guys here later in the video, and I'll show you another time where that sort of pops up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into, and I'll play through some of the basically the first heist. This heist, man, there's so many cool little secondary things going on in this heist. First, you start to see that Nate really is pretty rusty. Now, Nate at times has had issues of clumsiness and so forth. That's his charm. But what I love is if you watch some of this and you really pay close attention, you get this idea of this character. He is rusty. He hasn't been doing this for a while. And Sam actually says some stuff and sort of points out a couple things. That's really cool. But as well as, and you see that kind of stuff repeated actually later in the levels in Madagascar, I believe. But one of the cool things also you see here is that Nate there's a tiredness in this character, even though he does want to still adventure. That pulling from a man boy to a real man is sort of tiring as well, and you see that. Also, you see things that we haven't seen before with Nate, like a questioning action. He's looking at the map, he's looking back, he's looking at the map, he's looking back. Like, even though they're trying to give you information about what's going on in the game, there's a subtle way in which they're doing it that maybe even they subconsciously weren't really aware of. They're just like, hey, we want to tell this type of story. But they have this moment where you sort of get this idea that Nate he's rusty. He's not quite sure what he's supposed to be doing, but he's certainly not happy with what he's doing now. And he knew he was happier back then, and it's trying to figure this out. Also, this is, I think, the first time where we're going to see the Sam and Sully angel devil thing. Now, another thing you notice, Nate sits down. He does this a lot more in this game, and I'm not quite sure if they just wanted him to interact with the scenery. He's tying his shoe here. Some real mundane, normal things we see. It's those extra mundane things that really solidify these characters, I think, and make you feel like these are real people. But additionally, Nate does it a lot here. There's a tiredness that we'll see later as well. And you see him doing that kind of stuff. Sort of tells a story. And not only now do we have a sort of a Sam Sully kind of angel devil thing, but there is a moment here where it quite literally looks like that, which I thought was awesome. Probably not on purpose, but it tells a story regardless. Right here, Sam agrees. Nate looks, and like a devil on the shoulder, Sam squeezes over and basically in his ear tries to tell him that there's still a good chance that his best friend has betrayed him. And I love that because Sam does that, and through the game, Nathan sort of goes back and forth, believing, disbelieving in what's going on, and just sort of his own motivation. It's funny because Sam is not always the devil. That's the problem in the devil-angel scenario. The devil is not always mean, and the angel doesn't always tell you what you want to hear. And that's what's really interesting here in this dynamic. And of course, now we come to the full gameplay graphics. And guys, this is phenomenal. You know, it's not an open world system, so we're not going to see the reflection of life that I like to cover, but we will see some reflection of gameplay and how gameplay is mimicked in this game world. And we'll discuss that. We do see some butterflies. We see some birds. One thing I think that they really didn't hit very well here or in the tropical islands is the amount of animal life is very lean. I think especially in tropical islands where it's basically like a giant strange creature breeding generator Unfortunately, they barely covered that. And of course, if you guys have watched the Walking the Walk for Witcher 3, I cover different types of erosion and how those can lead, if you do them right in video games, they can lead an air of realism, because almost everybody instinctually, if you've walked outside over time, you see these things. There's some crush and sheer erosion here, which is cool. Now, unfortunately, in this kind of game versus Witcher 3, they're here just for me to do this. But they do a good job of breaking up the scenery a little bit and making things a little bit more realistic, even though I would say when you're looking at this, it is more giant pillars to jump on versus an aim towards realism, but you do see that mimicked, and I think it looks better. Just the graphic jump helps that look better here. And then, of course, you have the nice smoggy fog over there, volumetric fog. You have all these different little graphical effects, great golden colored lighting here. They did a really good job with the sun. We'll see that clouds can go in front of the sun during the time you're doing different missions, especially when you're in the boat. You see this a lot. A cloud will go in front of the sun. You'll actually see it dim just momentarily. Very cool sun effects here. And then my favorite, this is the first time when I was playing the game where I was like, oh, wow, is the pollen coming off of these. It's not an overdue effect. It's not overdone, I'm sorry. And if you watch closely, you'll see it. But you can see that pollen. And so I'm like, even if I do stuff like, even if I roll, nothing, like not more comes out, just enough comes out to sort of give you that feeling that Nathan's passing through the actual land, in through the murder grass, as I called it in the review.
There's that exposed beam underneath.
Yeah. So the exposed beam story, as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of the gameplay conventions that are this noticeable. This is really, it's I don't know what you want to call this. I guess you could call it bad game design. I don't know. I wish there were other ways to handle this. There would have probably been a way to use a grappling hook that's stuck into rock as well and make it look more like these rock walls here. But regardless, you do have those. It is funny when you're traveling and you go to a place no one's been for like 600 years and there's a block of wood with rope around it. Finger strength of a mountain gorilla here.
What's in next?
So one of the things that was nice to hear about is that they've gone away from scripting the AI and its travel and progress through a level. What they've done is they've allowed the characters, both in combat and in normal egress and just climbing, descending, to allow the AI to look and basically perform actions within the timing that are allowable. So they don't always swing at the same speed. They don't always leap off of the rope at the same timing. And I think that's cool because it lends a little bit of a realism to it. It's not perfect by any means, but it does help it add a little bit of randomness and realism. I always found this strange. He made me go down. He's like, yeah, I'll swing across. You drop like 25 feet straight down and, hopefully don't shatter. Look at that. Oh, jeez. Finger bones would just be shattered. Here we go. That reach move is just, it's helped the control so much. It's very hard to fall to your death. It is possible, especially dropping straight down. I have dropped straight down to my death a couple times, but I would say overall movement in this is dramatically improved. Even if you have moments like this where you're rocket boosted. That's great. All right. Got some low resolution textures here. They did a really good job hiding the low resolution textures, the 3D effects on the rocks and stuff like that. They did a good job of hiding it. So it only shows up in particular areas. You only see it really here. And then once you get into the level, you rarely see it again, but you do notice it occasionally.
Jesus, did you see him? That Brendan thug was packing some serious heat.
Yeah, I love that. Once again, you've got Sam talking, like you can tell just his overall looking of things and his focus, the narrative focus they've got for Sam is different than Nate. Nate has, he's a homebody, sort of, but he certainly isn't, I guess, as adventuring as he used to be. And Sam just came out of prison, and the first thing Sam notices is the guns somebody has. And Nate doesn't even notice and then just says, oh no, we'll get by without guns. But you get that idea of two different characters. You know, a lot of people I know had said, oh, they weren't fans of Sam. Man, I love Sam. I think he's a great foil for Nate because he is showing you. You see this in two places in this game, and I'll show both. But you basically see that Sam is one step removed from where Nate could be. And then later on, we're going to see a character who is a mighty leap from what Nate could be, both negative. Sully is sort of negative as well when you really think about it, you know, bachelor, still traveling the world and stuff like that, but still a pretty okay guy. But it's great because you see these two characters later on, Sam right now, as really sort of alerting you to what a character who sort of just goes out for himself can end up being. Even though Sam has tried to protect Nate a couple times, in the end, Nate's the bigger brother, guys. I mean, when you really look at it, or the older brother, that's what's happened so far is, you know, even when Sam was trying to protect him at the starting of the game, he is the older brother.
So, your other wonderful finds, the ones I missed, you at least take any pictures?
I wish. Elena filmed some of it, but the camera didn't make it.
That's too bad.
I have some drawings, though. When we get back, I can show you.
You have drawings?
Yeah, I love that. Really cool. You know, Sam, he just is. He isn't. I mean, there's some light ribbing there, but you can see the difference just in maturity level or the way they think of things. It's just so interesting. And also, they've already settled into a different pattern. If you guys have noticed, the celebration at the brother being alive, right? Even though we know there's a problem and we know that they have to do stuff, the celebration, that's over. And they've already sort of settled back into this unique relationship. I always thought that the foliage and stuff like this was well done in this area. If a little bit, some of the foliage is a little odd because it would be in more cooler places and the sun looks like it would bake it all day. But I love that they've patterned in some brown into the ivy, which sort of gives you the idea, because ivy, almost any, you know, plant can actually get burned by too much sun. And I love that look. Very cool. Also, little belt scratches or finger scratches here. You know, reflection of life we usually cover, but unfortunately there's not a lot here. But you do have reflection of gameplay there. And I love the little scratch marks to sort of show you that this is an area you can traverse. Also, let's be honest, absolutely no bank vault, mansion, or hacienda would in any way, shape, or form be safe from these dudes. It's just hilarious. If anybody could leap and lunge like this scene here, just looking out here, is so awesome graphically. That's probably a mixture of texture and 3D, but a lot of it is 3D actual models and elements, and that, or the most amazing texture work ever. But regardless, what it does is it really gives you that feeling. As I stated in the review, I've always felt that the Uncharted games felt cool and they felt like amazing action pieces, but they really did feel like discrete levels. And I never felt like I was exploring in the same world. Or that they weren't even in the same world. They were just different little pieces, little set pieces. This game still has its set pieces, but because of the wider breadth of the set piece and because of the way the artists have put everything together and made sure that, a lot like Alan Wake, where you can walk down a windy trail into a town and then out through another windy trail, look back and see all of that, that allows Uncharted to feel like it exists within the game world a little bit more. And here we have, again, the angel devil moment, but you have the best part, Sam reminding Nate to take his clothes that are the disguise off. And you get that idea that, again, Nate is a little bit rusty at this. It happens for a while in the game and then sort of falls away, but we do notice it. I love that sort of reminder that this guy may be good, but it's been a couple years. And then over here to the right, the idea that character smoking has flooded that corner with that smoke is such an amazing graphical effect. Look at that.
What's that? Nobody cares.
I love Sullivan. Here's the angel. And we'll have them meet, and then I'll go ahead and play through and then go to the next level. So you got Sam and Sullivan, and I love this. Angel and devil sort of meeting up. And they've known each other. They didn't get along, but I love Sullivan putting his hand out. Good to see you alive, Sam. Now, you realize Sam is sort of an ass, right? You see that response and you're like, wow, this guy just said, I'm glad to see you alive. And Sam is just sort of an ass. But you realize, obviously, as the game continues on, there's a very distinct reason for him acting like that. It's not just because he's being an ass, though he is one. Now, this is probably one of my most enjoyable sections of the game. Screen space reflections, everything, all of the lighting, global illumination of some kind that they're using. I don't remember what they're using. I think they're using like point probes, but these differing colors of light, this light blue with this yellow, that could actually look pretty terrible as a lighting scheme. I have a feeling they had to work really hard on getting this to work well, because then you also have this open door that goes outside. So you have the light bleed from the inside and the outside in the mending. And then, of course, the jacket still over there. That blows my mind. How many games would we see where like something like that, just you wouldn't even be able to see it, or of course they wouldn't show it. And to have that was really cool. And then him showing, looking over the place where you guys will go later. Just, I love this idea of the entire place existing, regardless if you're in a room or you're on a deck, you're looking out, you can see this entire place. And it's all basically a place you can go to. Very cool. And just something that's different. Uncharted did it somewhat, but oh my God. And then so every time I played this level, this crazy waitress just sort of meanders around, and then occasionally let's see if she does it. Occasionally she'll just offer it to the door. And she does. I have no clue what she's doing. She's on Quaaludes or something. So this is the smoking room. One of my favorite areas for just seeing a good little snippet of animations. Sitting here watching them talk is very cool. Also, it blows my mind. The girl in front of me sitting in the blue, talking to the guy and craning her neck, that would look so unnatural in most games. But they've got it nailed just right. So it really does look like a woman sitting down talking to a guy who's standing, behind her. Very cool look there. I love this shift from green back down into the typical colors. It could look like a paint machine broke when you really think about it, but they did a good job sort of separating those different areas. And in some of these large locations, I'll have like the East Hall, the West Hall, and those will all be designed in particular areas. I don't think I've got this before. Oh, the lot order. Okay. So in these locations, and especially down here, it reminds me a lot of Hitman. And you guys heard me, I loved the crowd. What the hell did I just do? I love the crowd dynamic in Hitman. I always thought it was really well done. But here, it's at another level. There's far less interactivity than there was in Hitman. I'm going to be brutally honest. There's a lot less. And in fact, I'm not a big fan of how you move through the crowd in this game. But the way the crowd is set up and how Naughty Dog has gone to make sure... He's not going to say anything. And Naughty Dog has gone on to make sure that everybody is slightly different in the way they look is incredible. Also, you'll notice on all of the lights, the soft glow there, really well done, not overdone like Mass Effect. And everything is reflected in the floor. That's insane. But here you can see very few repeats. In fact, you'll see some different dress types where some clothing will look somewhat the same, but you'll notice a slight shift in the tone of the color, or you'll notice, let's see if we can see here. Okay, there's two girls in blue, and one has one strap, one has double strap, and the one on the left has no strap, and it's a darker blue. So, and of course with the women, it's going to matter more because the guys are all dressed like, basically clone penguins. But it's a very good idea to sort of break those up, and it feels like this is a section of people all separate, doing things and looking and talking and engaging. The only thing I would say I am not a fan of is the interaction here. I didn't find that really felt right walking through these characters, but it certainly is an absolutely almost insane place. Look at that tile structure. Tile porn. There's a level in Madagascar I'll have to show you guys in the city. I think it's Madagascar, where the tile, it just looks incredible. I mean, it looks real. All right, so we jumped to Scotland. Now, the reason why I did that is because I feel that the color shift here, man, it's almost masterful. The color shift to go from where we just were with the blues and the different, the very cold colors, unnatural colors in many ways. And now we're in this autumn/fall, snowy, brown looking area. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, well, if you can find me an escalator, I think I'll pass.
All right. See you in a few.
Hey, Nate.
Yeah.
Just bring me back something shiny, will you?
Okay, and now I love that. I like Sullivan. He's, as I said in the review, he's the teller of truth, but he's also, a good friend. He's a very cool character. And then the shift from cutscene to right to gameplay, fantastic. Now we're going to see there's all kinds of unique animations that go on that you see and notice here, I think, for the first time in the game, just because of how it's set up. Going downhill, you're going to see what you saw in Witcher, which is people will actually rock back on their heels a little bit, and you can see Nate already doing it. It's just, it's such a cool look. Yeah, it's such a cool look. The swing, everything, and then Sam looks real, the way Sam's moving. I would say I think The Witcher 3 looked a little bit more realistic going downhill, but still very cool animations and just an overall good look. And then I wanted to come down here and look at this and show you guys this. This is absolutely one of the most amazing looking scenes, because you're coming out into a brighter area, and of course you got some fog, but you can't see through that until you get out of the vegetation, where that fog and mist permeates down by the vegetation and sort of moves on. And coming through that is such a great look. People have complained about the shale slides. I get it. I think it looks cool when the big rocks are moving. The small ones look a little funky. They are a gameplay device that I think sort of could have used some work. And they sort of look a little chunky. Probably the most chunky looking thing in this game. And then here, of course, we find a log somebody was nice enough to wrap a rope around. One of the things we will see here is basically the first oddity that I noticed. And, I really enjoyed this game, but this, to me, was a very odd battle. It's one of two. I felt that Scotland's location was the best, but the battles and how they played out was sort of unnerving, because here we are talking and everything's fine, and then guys will just randomly attack us, sprinting for no reason. And let me kill these guys. So that, to me, is just, this section's always bothered me. It bothered me the first time I played it. I felt that it was odd that they just came from nowhere. Later, we get to that castle area, and the same thing happens. But those guys truly come from nowhere. Matter of fact, some guys just basically come from where you've been, and there's no chance for them to have actually been there. Now, resolution-wise, there has been some talk about some of the light beams and stuff like that being a little chunky. I didn't really notice it. I think it looks phenomenal. There were some issues with shadows I've noticed, but I think these, all the god rays, I think the lighting system as a whole in the game is really well done. It takes a lot to understand what hue you want a game to be in. When you look at Fallout 4, Fallout 3, one of the first things people always look at is, can we adjust the color of the world, because Bethesda's chosen a certain overall filter. So I think they've done a great job here. And I'm going to try to catch that deer. I never catch it successfully. Just disappears. So we're in another section with very little reflection of life. You do see the deer. Of course, the deer disappears completely. We don't really see a reflection of life or the indication, unfortunately, of anything being here prior. And that can lead, I feel, Scotland is the most unique, interesting location, and yet at the same time hampered by some moments and some fight scenes that look pretty terrible. Indeed, like the water not moving here. I just don't get it. I've never seen that before in an Uncharted game. I'm blown away that it does nothing. But whatever. So anyway, when it comes to the problems with Scotland as a whole, this area, is that every one of the fight scenes in this area, to me, felt far more like, I guess, some kind of set piece, where it felt like I knew I was going to be in a battle versus it was an organic feeling of battle. To me, it actually feels like the game, or this level, was gray box too much. Gray boxing is basically what happens when you're putting a level together and you're a game developer, and one of the things you do is you can put together basically a gray boxed level. It's just boxes where items are, and it sort of shows you the flow of the level, and people can actually play that. And depending on what other assets you have, you can actually have, a fairly fleshed out character running around this area with gray boxes. It just really depends on where you use it in your flow, or if you do in the same way as other people do. This level, other than the others, actually feels a little bit like it was gray box too much, and they lost some of the organic feel of the levels in trade-off for better gameplay, perhaps. And it may be better than whatever they had originally, but this area as a whole, just this entire even battle, this movement of this box here, even though it introduces you to that, it just really felt overdone. It felt far too much of a set piece, like, hey, we've dropped down this castle, versus the organic feeling that the other levels have. The other levels really do feel like locations. Even later in Scotland, the castle, that feels like a real location. This, not so much. And I'm just saying what I feel. It's not like I'm 100% right or 100% wrong. It's not like you have to agree with my opinion. But this particular area just wasn't for me. And I guess the last thing I would say that sort of bothered me a little bit is that these guys sort of come from nowhere. Some guys come from in front of you, which makes some kind of sense, but the guys on the left come from where you just were. There's really no one there. There's no chance of them coming at you from the location that they did. And so what you get is this sort of reality dissonance that pops up. And as a game designer, a lot of times people will try to make sure that that doesn't happen, that you don't have basically a monster closet, because here we sort of have a monster castle where the enemies just come from the side of a castle. These guys here, you can sort of explain that they came from the cliff because you see a couple of them rappelling from it. The guys to the left, it's just like they appear from where you just were. So jumping forward a little bit and starting to get more into the swinging dynamic, more into the swing of things. This is where some of the little bit of animation issues that I both loved and disliked came up. Let's see how he swings. Okay, so Sam swinged fairly realistically there for a guy whose, fingernails wouldn't explode. But what you get is a little bit of turbo boosting from these characters that can look a little funky. One thing I like about this is Naughty Dog has been on the record as saying they've removed a lot of the scripting for how characters traverse through the level, including AI, and I discussed this a little bit before, and they've allowed them to sort of see the world and go about it a certain way. And so you get characters that swing differently depending on like just when you play the level, how you went, the timing and stuff like that. So it's not all canned, which is very cool. Let's see. Yeah, I rocket boosted a little bit there, but it could have been much worse. This is a great location here. It's I really do enjoy this location because for some reason I love to be able to watch Sam do this. That's so cool looking. Okay, there we go. There was a unbelievable rocket boost. So, that's life. You have to deal with that. It is weird though that the entire game mechanic does that instead of just setting up the levels so that it doesn't have to do that. I've been a little bit surprised. But I guess the grab animation is a little longer is all. I also like the fact that everybody's got different strength. Sam versus Nate versus Elena. They all have different strength in the game. They all react to locations and stuff like that differently depending on what they need to do. Now, if you guys watch my review video, last time I swung and got this guy, and it looked funky. Leaping up looks fine. Somebody had mentioned that in the review thread. And of course, here you have some more different styles of erosion. Basically, whenever any soft rock has a hard rock on top of it, over years they'll crush down. You get some of that rock clutter. For them, it's just an art asset that they add, but for realism, very cool. And if you watch my review, this is the scene where I think I said something along the lines of, it's still one of the most beautiful games. This scene right here, this funnel effect and the colors and the way this area is shaped really grabs the eye. I love that leap. We'll take these guys out and then we'll move on from Scotland. I enjoy the area. I think that, the later area, the graveyard looks great and looks far more organic than the first two. I just think the first two places are a little weak and it really does feel like they were gray box too much. And that is something that can happen, especially in a game like this where they've had a long time to work on it. Most devastating double axe hammer ever dropped on a person. All right, so he doesn't. This is like the second time he hasn't moved up here. All right, whatever. It always makes me nervous. Sleep. And back into the murder grass. Now, this area, it is murder grass filled. It also has some bad guys standing in the middle of nowhere just guarding this area versus where they probably would guard. This sort of looks a little odd, but this is a great play piece. If you haven't played this game, or if you have played this game, you probably would agree that this is a very fun battle. Depending on how you go about it, you can go about it in multiple different ways. It's a pretty unrealistic how everybody's sort of standing out in the middle and in the open, but this location, the way it looks, the way it sits here on top of a hill that goes into a valley for you to actually then basically climb up a mountain. Very cool little change up in terrain that happens in a small amount of time, from like man-made to a natural safe place to immediately a dangerous place where you're hanging by your fingertips. That happens a lot in Uncharted 4, and I think it's really cool because of it. So when it comes to the stealth mechanics, I feel that I'm not a fan of passive stealth, nor will I probably ever be. I do not like murder grass. I find it to be just terrible as an idea. But if I had to put a terrible idea in a game, it would probably be this version of murder grass for 3 reasons. 1, Naughty Dog nailed the color. I don't know how they did it, but they nailed the color. He actually looks camouflaged. In how many times have we seen a damn video game where the guy is wearing like orange and he's supposedly in some green grass, and you're like, that makes no fucking sense. Here, the color scheme works perfect. Depending on what he's wearing, they matched it all up. So no matter where you are, for the most part, the color works. And I think that that's absolutely stupendous. I would say second is because of the ease of movement that they've added to this title. Let's just be honest, man. Uncharted has a loose feel to it and always has, but the looseness has been increased a little bit, but so has the usability, right? So the looseness, and maybe some people would call it inaccuracy of the movement, yeah, that has gone up a little bit. But at the same time, now you're able to, have murder grass and a couple other things that you can do. And hand-to-hand combat's a little bit more, I would say, volatile, violent, and, well, deadly for the bad guys. So I think it's an okay trade-off. Again, I would not throw murder grass into every game, but if you have to have it in a game, this is probably the way to do it. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. If you see me barrel rolling everywhere, that's for some reason just what I've done since I was a little kid. I always got to do the somersault if it's possible in a game. So talking about AI for a second, before actually I'll fight these guys and I'll talk about AI for a little bit. When it comes to AI, so basically, like I said, they've redone a lot of the AI. They've taken some scripting out. They've added some ability for the AI to really look at the locations and identify where there's egress, where there's cover, what they should do, where you are, where you were last seen, those kind of things. And would I say the AI is better? Absolutely. I would say that it is better. Is it great? No. It did fail in the review. It did fail a couple tests that we do for reviews for different difficulty levels, where it, like an AI won't, say, notice a body sitting right in front of it. The sad fact is, it doesn't matter if you're on the hardest difficulty or on the easiest difficulty. These guys, their cone lines are actually really, really truncated, very short line of sight for most of these guys. And it's unfortunate. For example, that guy is quite literally staring at his best friend's dead body and momentarily noticed and then ignored him. So you have this sort of desire for realism, but you can only go so far, right? Otherwise it wouldn't be fun. So I think they did a pretty good job. The AI, the way it moves, the way you move now, I think that all works fairly well. So now one of the patrols has found him, which is very cool. That's at minimum, you at least have that. Unfortunately, he probably should have seen him a lot earlier. But movement from north to south, east to west, that kind of stuff, and definitely north to east and north to west is difficult in this game. If you just noticed, I left off into the nowhere. Occasionally, you'll have those weird jumps if you're trying to just do it without really do it by feel versus by the animation and the look that they give you to tell you something's possible. So that was my fault, not anybody else's. Now, I'm going to test this. I think I'm going to do some dynamite. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how they react to it. I love the guy. He fell back, but then he got back up right away. That was actually pretty cool. The only thing I've noticed is that they're right back in their typical patrol pattern. Oh, that guy saw me though. Or maybe he didn't. So they're not even actually searching for me. They're just searching on the general location. I love that double. If you noticed, so all of the smoke basically accepts shadows and light from everything around it. And in a lot of games, you wouldn't see that. It would basically, it just wouldn't be as accurate, or it would be faked, or there would be some of the effects missing. Here, when you saw that explosion, you can see that smoke basically go from the dark area up there and hit that light beam. And you were able to actually see that self-illuminate, which is very cool. Or not self-illuminate, but illuminate. I'm going to take this guy out. Got to do a barrel roll. Break his neck. And kick him off. which is always cool. More murder grass. All right, so we'll move to the next spot. So the next place I want to show you, of course, is driving the vehicle around. Now, I've sort of gone on record as stating I wasn't a fan of the vehicle in the city section or any of the set piece moments when you're driving the vehicle. I felt that it just doesn't control very well. But here, I think it controls beautifully. So we're going to look at this. Also, you'll notice the collision detection multiple times where Nathan touches the van or touches the Jeep, and everything just works perfectly in gameplay. This is, of course, the cutscene. We'll talk about it in a second.
A little bumpy though. Let's get the show on the road.
All right. So basically, what the Naughty Dog has said is that you usually have a right, left, middle kind of section and location. First of all, I want to show you guys this. Oh, I might need to go to a drier area. You can basically dynamic texture almost anything in the game, clothing, the vehicle, in mud and stuff like that. So I was hoping here, but it's a little too dry. So right, left, and middle is where you go. It is not open world. I think it's important that people just remember that it's not that, because I know a lot of people saw some of how small this level actually is, and they were like, oh, that's not what I thought it was going to be. It was never going to be an open world, you know? Let me try to... Nope, not there. It was never going to be an open world. It was one of those games that's just, trying to show you a larger overall area, and I think that really absolutely helps. But you just have to be prepared for it. You have to know what you're getting. I love the changes in the flora and fauna here. They did a really good job of making every location feel so different. I mean, even this place from a jungle, they look somewhat the same, the greenery and stuff like that. But when it comes to the actual vegetation, it's a good amount different. I think we'll skip these guys. Oh, some water. Okay, so let's see if... there I am. I'm see the back fender. So that's all dynamic, and that gets painted as you go through the level with dirt, the different clods of dirt you get. And you'll collect dirt, see, on the tires, and they're actually per location. So if one tire is in the grass and one is in the mud, the right tire will gain the dirt, left tire will not gain any, which is very cool. Unfortunately, I could never get water to wipe it off. Yeah, it doesn't take away the dirt or anything. Once it's on there, it seems like it's either timed or it just is on there forever. Let's throw up some mud. I love the clods. They did such a good job with those. That is so great looking. Sully and Sam are like, what in the F is this guy's problem? All right. Now, it's not dynamic or in any way, let's say, destructible, when it comes to the ground. There's no deformable terrain of any kind. You can't just drive in the same area and absolutely destroy it. You can leave some marks, some tracks, but that's about it. There we go. Do a little handbrake action. I love the look of that tire. That's hilarious. Yeah, this entire scene and section is it's fantastic looking, I mean, I get it that it is smaller than a lot of people were hoping for, but it's still quite enjoyable. Go back here and we'll listen to some of the sounds. One of the things I'm really impressed with, again, is the sound inside of locations, like inside of this cave here. So we'll go in there. Whoops, meant to go around. But there's the animation for the different animations for the Jeep. Each side has a different animation. Now watch Sully, say, come on over. That is so great. What an attention to detail. Just small details. But all right, so we'll jump in here and listen to this for a second.
Would you look at that?
And yeah, I'm not going to lie, it is sort of funny that there's a box there. But what I wanted to talk about is I love the fade, that subtle processing fade that you get from a normal area with no real sound occlusion. You don't really get any issues with reverb and echo. And then you come up over this step and it sort of floods in, because the step that you jump over also happens to right and left be the wall that sort of enters you into this chamber. And you start getting that good, clear echo effect. They did a good job. At times it's a little weak. I noticed, especially like if you're firing guns and stuff like that, it can feel a little weak. I discussed that in the review. There's once or twice it was actually strong too, where it was a little too strong. But I would say as a whole, it still nails it almost all the time. It really feels good. It's just, I think sometimes whatever they may have within the room. So every material in a game can, depending on the game, can have an audio, I guess you would call it an audio component, even a texture. If you want to add an audio component to a metal texture, then what that does is whenever any of the audio signal hits that metal texture, it can add a tinny sound to it. It can change its tonal resonance. It depends on the graphics engine and depends on what you're doing. But a game like this, as detailed as this, assuming that that's actually exactly what happens. So some of these areas probably with a lot of wood items in them, with any kind of even small opening or any vegetation, a little bit of that echo, of course, will decrease because you won't have that solid, just cave entrance sound. This is cool. I really was surprised that waterfall wasn't deafening. I'm blown away. You could still hear things by it. If anybody's been by even the smallest of waterfalls, it sounds like you're basically inside the engine to a Mack truck.
Hey, behind the waterfall. No shit. Fine. Nothing.
Even though I did actually find something. One of the things I enjoy about all the Uncharteds, but I think it's done to master level in Uncharted 4, is the NPCs and how they continually give you data. If you get lost, they will find the way to go. If there's an item, they will discuss it. If you find something, they will ask you about it. And it lodges everybody into the game world. Oh, nope. I can't go this way. It lodges everybody into the game world so that it feels like everybody's interacting with it. How many times have we played a game where the NPC is just sort of doing whatever they do? They're not really reacting to anything. And a lot of times you're stuck saying like, oh, this guy's going to die because he's not reacting to gunshots around him. Something like that, right? In Uncharted 4, they react to everything. They react to what you're doing, what enemies are doing, and what they themselves are doing. And that adding to the reality, to grounding everything, really just, it works so well to give you this worldview. Here's the bridge from the trailer.
Keep it slow. Keep it in the center. Yeah, there's a lot of
This is a cool location right here. Here, let me try to break it.
What do you suppose the weight limit on this bridge is? Well,
Approximately 3 American adventures. Yeah, this is cool. Once again, you get that feel, I was just there, right? And this is something I spoke about in my Walking the Walk for Alan Wake that absolutely speaks to me as a gamer. If it's not an open world game, if it's like this or Alan Wake, where you're basically, it's still linear, but you have different ways you can go, or they're sort of wide in locations. The ability to look back visually and see where you have come from tells a story all by itself. That's vital for a game developer to put into a game, and most do in some way. But it gives you that feeling of traversal. It gives you that feeling of miles traveled and of an experience continued. Holy shit. Almost crashed that.
That was close.
So talking about graphics design for a second, one of the things that I mentioned in the review that blew me away was how much subtle graphic, representation of where you can go in this game is actually done. These little tiny rocks here to sort of show you that this is the way to go. We're going to come up, I think it's this hill, but we come up over a hill, and if you look closely, you can actually see exactly where you need to go. And yet it still looks completely natural. And there's something about that level of game design that takes years to master, and yet somehow these guys did it. Yeah, it's over this next hill. This is a great place. Like, it gives you this feeling that this is a true 4x4. Like most vehicles, only the Warthog probably has any kind of traversal like this. So come up here, the animals, I love that. All right, so if you look, you can tell right away where you need to go. And it's the only true diagonal, like basically 45, I don't know if that's 45, but a basic true diagonal structure in this entire scene right here. And it's right in the center of the picture. And your brain sees that as from lower to higher, right? And it's so weird because you just see it and you're like, your brain instantly tells you that's where you need to go. And they didn't trick us. That is where you need to go. What I mean by that is they obviously had game testers look at this area, this diagonal right here, and they knew that that's what people would aim for. And they didn't trick you. They didn't say, oh, that's not where you'll need to go. Yeah, all this is the first. I mean, imagine a video game where all you were doing was driving this 4x4. Shit, I'd play the hell out of it.
Some other big shot pirates pulled their treasure and came out here because why exactly? Who knows? Maybe for protection. British authorities were closing in on them.
Yeah, such a great view. But again, traversal, telling that story, telling the journey. It's at the starting of every game, at the starting of every level, you look forward and you're like, I can't wait to go there, right? You hear it in Bethesda. How many times have we heard it? See that mountain? You can go there. To me, that's great. But the best part to me is actually turning around and looking about where I came from. There's something completely powerful about that in narrative. So there's a flickering right here. So there's some kind of texture issue right there. You can see the flickering there on the ground. Odd. So I don't know if I need to trigger this winch point, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I don't want to go back down and try to grab that damn winch and have it not work. So I'm going to trigger this little cutscene here. Now, a lot of people have talked about the winch and been pretty stoked. I think it's awesome. It is funny how difficult doing a wire wrapping around something connecting to itself is calculations wise. And there have been a lot of people really impressed. It sounds stupid being impressed by a winch wire, but the elegance and way it works, it's obvious that they took some of whatever's working with the rope swing or the rope rappel rope that you use. And it's obvious that they're using some of the same kind of calculations, but watch some of the subtle animations. Watch him pass it behind his back like that. Is that not just, that is such an attention to detail when it comes to animations. And you even hear the sound of him passing it behind. You can actually hear that. And then connecting it here. Just, that's insane. And then it tightens up. I always have to do a roll before I slide. Also, you'll notice I'll just jump over this rope instead of walking right through it like most games. That's also cool. And then we'll use the winch. So yeah, the winch, I mean, it's crazy that's difficult to do and make it look right, but it actually is. And multiple people have talked about it as being, pretty impressive. We came to conquer, baby.
Winch, totally worth
To clear the hill. It isn't exactly painful.
Ah, yeah. Small victories.
Yeah, well, I'll celebrate the big ones.
Everybody different animations. That's great jumping in there. We'll come over here.
Feast your eyes, gentlemen. Wow.
That pullback to this camera, very well done. Just really, really impressively well done.
Well-to-do pilot, far away from your oppressive government.
So I think we'll move on to another section. I just have to say, it's unfortunate because I'm really not at all impressed with the handling or any of the mechanics when you take this vehicle into the city area and you have to fight off the big armored vehicle. It was rote. It felt boring. The vehicle didn't control well at all, nor did it control realistically as somebody who's owned a Jeep. So it was actually pretty terrible compared to this, which is absolutely spot on. I would play a game where all you were doing was driving this around for weeks. So let's jump to the next point. We'll do the city, I think. So this will probably be a shorter overall, I guess, level look. But there's a couple things I noticed. The three color schemes, light blue on the left, orange, yellow in the front, and then the orange and red on the right, the switch of the two on the right. I was really surprised at how colorful they made this location and how that color break, it works a little bit the way it works in the mansion level, except here it gives you a feeling of like liveliness. And of course, that's because of the different color choices. But look at the work on the texture detail, like the rust and that overlay. And the rust and all those things are actually in the right locations. Sometimes you'll get a game where you'll be looking at it and you'll be like, this just doesn't look right, because oxidization like that actually occurs in very specific patterns. And of course, where there is damage to a vehicle and occur more there as well. But I think they did a spectacular job here. And Naughty Dog's always done well in making sure that a location is cluttered, but it's not busy. Or busy but not cluttered, whichever way you want to say that. I would say it that way, actually. And I think they did a spectacular job here. Unfortunately, you still have the same really just terrible crowd dynamic. It doesn't feel very smooth moving through crowds in this game. and it can feel a little bit like you're fighting, trying to swim uphill kind of thing, or that you're not really hitting the spot you're supposed to be hitting. But while you're doing it, man, does it look good. I mean, the tile work, this is, of course, where we're going to discuss the tile porn moment, where there's some tile work at the end of this market square that when I first played this game, as somebody who I just love the look of masonry and when it's really well done and any stonework and tile work. Oh, so I don't know if anybody else even noticed this painter, but world's worst painter. This dude, world's worst painter. First of all, somehow the dude has hired 2 other guys just to hold this ladder. Ladder ain't going anywhere. It's on freaking stone. But then he just paints the same section. I love it. And it's just like just a nasty dark blue, and then he's like a little bit here, yeah, a little tiny bit more there, and then look down, ask those guys how they're doing. Oh, just paint the same spot. I love it. Yeah, so and there once again you got that side animation where Nathan sort of touches something he's passing by, solidifies in there again in that level just a little bit. And with that excellent collision detection, looks like he touches it. Now, I don't know if you guys know this. If you get the apple, then you can have the lemur get the apple from you if you pet the lemur and have it go with you. If you just pet the lemur and you don't have the apple, he'll just come up and like ruffle your hair and then run off. There's a lemur right there. So you can have like little dual interactions there. And this is just a cool look. It's one of those things where you have everything from the little bit of volumetric fog going on. You've got just so many different colors, pastels, but you also have different, shades. And then you got this tile. I don't know what it is about this tile, but look at that. It's fantastic. The way it reflects and the way the grout is, everything about this location. And it's that light blue color. It's such a unique color for this location. But what I was saying is the different, again, more color. You have pastels, you have stripes, you have checkers, you have all these different designs. And even though you may have repeating people in it, because you have that plus headwear, you get this situation where you actually have to look for the repeat, which I think is really unusual in these kind of games. And I loved Hitman and I loved that crowd, but you saw the copies quite easily. So this next section is probably the most impressive thing I've seen in a game that I can remember in years. And that's the fact that Naughty Dog decided to rip the actual animations out of Nate and put new ones in for this entire scene. Many of these not being used at other moments. I was blown away by just the level of detail. We can talk about like his rope swinging and all that stuff on his belt, but removing those animations and putting these in just to show this one scene, this one level, it blows me away. I talked about it in the review, but that swoop of his shoulders forward and the scuff of his feet and stopping, watch this, like that slide skip stop that he does, all of this absolutely tremendous. Now, unfortunately, it's also in a level where I feel that the water looks terrible. The water in this game looks really good when it's not going crazy. The more crazy it goes, the more it starts to look really funky, which is unfortunate. But if you see all this stuff, you even see something that's pretty cool. When a person is really tired, especially their legs, they are more prone to leg injuries. One of the reasons why is because the muscles and the tendons don't stay tight. And you basically have an issue where you can straighten out your knee too far. You can overextend your knee. Watch him actually walk, and you will see him do that more than once. You'll see him straighten that leg. I don't know if they, made somebody run and then put the rigging on him, or if this was all hand animated, and then the scuffing there to pull himself up, all of this added, brand new. What an attention to detail. Just phenomenal. Now, I'm a big fan of weather effects. You guys know that. I talk about it in games. I think it adds so much. I'm really not excited about what I'm seeing here. One of the first things I noticed when I was playing this is you see the rain coming down in really odd sheets, and those sheets are noticeable in strange layers. And what happens is you get this issue where you have what it looks like a paint effect going on. You can see it even right there. really not. It just really doesn't mend. It almost looks less 3D than it should be. It doesn't feel sometimes like you're in it, or it feels like you're in it, but then the rest of the world isn't, and it sort of alternates between the two. But everything from the foliage and how it moves. But I just had to show you guys this. I'm blown away, absolutely excited to see anybody say, hey, you know what? We want a character to look tired for an entire level, so we're going to reanimate everything he can possibly do. Every grab, every repel, and redo it or adjust it. It's phenomenal. Just phenomenal work. It's exciting to see somebody put that much thought into it. I love the wind there. You can see the wind whipping all of that sitting water up and into his face. Also, hats off to those guys for their voice acting. I think the voice acting is done excellent for everybody. Elaine, I really liked her voice acting. Emily Rose does that, but Nate's here in this area when he's breathing and out of breath. It sounds really good. We also found out that Naughty Dog likes to put their actors together to do the voice acting, and I think that absolutely helps. And any developer out there who's thinking about doing voice acting, you can't do a siloed voice actor anymore. It just doesn't work. They need to be with the people they're responding to. There's no way to fake it. It's just not that well done. What a cool scene. Just from a technical standpoint, this to me was the moment where I just sat back and was like, wow, these guys work their asses off. Bravo to them for that, for sure. So start this back up. We're in the islands. I wanted to show you guys, jumping around takes a long time, by the way. The levels, the loading time is long, so sorry about that. But one of the things I liked about this is, the water, as I stated, I actually like the way the water looks most of the time, unless it's really just going crazy, and then I actually think it looks pretty terrible. But the water here and like the jets coming off the two engines, this all looks so good. I mean, I would say for me at least, I like it a little bit better than Just Cause water. I don't know why. It might just be because it's a little bit more subdued. I could be wrong, but I just think it looks absolutely spectacular. I gotta get this. Talking about treasures for a second. In game design, you want to make sure that you reward people, right, for getting stuff. And one of the things I liked about Uncharted 4 is that some items were a little bit harder to find, some of the treasures, some a little easier. However, I'm just going to be brutally honest. I was ultimately really disappointed with all the treasures. This is their swan song, supposedly. And I expected that the treasures would have Nate talking about them, like, I remember, or this is the famous book of blah, 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 the Necronomicon, whatever. And instead, it's a line of question marks and a chart inside your menu, and that's it. And, people can say that's nitpicking, whatever. I'm not even really nitpicking or saying it's bad. I was just disappointed in it. I just wanted more because I thought as the last one, that would be one section that would really pay off these treasures, having him talk about them, having him, do something about them. And instead, you don't really have much. One of the things I like about this boat is it's not the light boat like, Just Cause, where you can ride a boat basically 45 miles up. It's just sort of stuck there. Again, unfortunately, you don't have a lot of life on these areas. They're more for looks. You definitely get the vegetation and the split. And actually, yeah, I'll show you guys this tower that I thought was really impressive when it comes to just the overall amount of different vegetation. But the problem is you're going to get some birds here, but you really don't see that large number of creatures that you would expect, and that I think would sort of solidify this place as a more realistic location. Especially if anybody has ever been, like I said in the past, to Hawaii Islands or something like that, they're just breeding grounds for strange and freaking, crazy looking creatures and different vegetation. And you have the vegetation, I think, here. I think it's represented fairly well, but I just really would have liked to have seen far more birds, creatures on the ground, things moving to make it feel alive, right? Because right now it truly does feel just a little bit dead. This is a great scene, just a great location right here. Coming into this with the rock outcropping plus having a hole in the rock to see the sky. It's always visually arresting, visually interesting, something that stops you just for a moment and makes you look. And that's one of the cool things about this game in particular is, you may not find anything at the end, but you can usually walk another 20 or 30 yards and look at something cool. Rarely is it just like some rubble. Now, I've talked about music. I'm just going to be brutally honest. I'm not a fan at all of this soundtrack. I think that the big parts, the big, whatever you want to term them, bombastic parts, the, generic Lin instead of violin, as I call them, it just does not sound interesting to me. It doesn't do anything for me as a whole. And there are about 4 tracks total, and you'll probably hear a little bit of one because I'm going to cover it in the last part of this video for sure, because it's going to wind all this back into a cycle. But yeah, I was sort of unhappy with the music. It's just doesn't really do anything for me. I know that a lot of people disagree with me, and I know some critics agreed. But so here, this section surprised me the very first time I played this game. This section right here, that looks awesome. There's something very organic about that, where everything looks like it's in its proper place. There isn't anything where it looks like a developer put it there. It looks like Earth put it there. So at the starting of this, I had asked everybody to make sure that they sort of paid attention to the way Nate's home looked and the way his attic was set up and sort of the overall emotional resonance of those locations, especially Nate being comfortable and playing his gun game in the attic and enjoying himself. And then he comes downstairs and you see this home that's actually let's be honest, guys, it's in a fairly high state of disorder. There's just shit strewn everywhere on the ground. And it's not like stuff that somebody would forget. It's like towels all over the floor, clothes just on the floor. And it's not just him, it's also his wife. And you can sort of sense that unease and sense that unhappiness even prior to their discussion. Also, Nate has turned down the job from his boss multiple times, but each time he does it, you can tell he wants to do it more and more, okay? But what we get here now is we finally sort of get a foreshadowing of what Nate's life would be like if he continued to be an adventurer. Because the story of Uncharted, especially 3 and 4, some of 2, has sort of gone in and made sure that people understand that it's not the greatest life in the world, and that in a way it can be ultimately self-serving. And it's cool because you have Sam and you have Sully showing you sort of the opposite sides of the same coin, even though they both in their own ways have issues. And then you see this character. Now, this character we meet here, you already see their house. Look at it's quite literally Nate's house, but 10 years later. And that blew me away. Such great foreshadowing. I mean, it blew my mind. When I first saw it, I was like, holy shit, I get it now. Because when I saw Nate's house at first, I was like, yeah, this just seems odd. And like I said, no developer wakes up and says, hey, let's make a bunch of models and put them all over the floor. Let's make a bunch of textures just for the fuck of it. Let's just spend a bunch of money. That makes no sense. They do it on purpose. And to see this foreshadowing now, and to see this location and realize this is sort of the loneliness and the crappy life that Nate could have if he continues, maybe even in Sam's footsteps, but if he continues in the footsteps and choices that he had made. When we meet this character, which I'm not going to show because I think that some of the stuff they say it's not even spoiler. It's just, I think that people should play the game or watch a movie of the game if they want. Some of the stuff even that the character says and the way this character is, you realize, oh shit, like this could be Nate. And I think that that's fantastic storytelling. These guys knocked it out of the park in this cycle to fully see this cycle and to not see it in your face where it's Nate seeing this. This is technically Nate as a kid seeing it. So we as game players are seeing it after Nate did. And there's that duality of storytelling where you and I are seeing it as a cycle. We're seeing, oh my God, this is some foreshadowing. But Nate already knew all these warnings and he chose to ignore them. And look where he was when he chose to ignore them. He was going down a path of already like pretty much mutually assured destruction. And the game and the way you play and the choices you make sort of get you out of it. And I think that that's awesome. It's fantastic storytelling, absolutely awesome, especially in the fact that you and I are seeing these in a different order than Nate experienced them and how they tell that tale. Very difficult to do, but to pull it off and to pull all of that resonance off and have it make sense in the end is fantastic. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys like these videos. It was very fun to do. This is, it may not have the most action-packed scenes at all times, but I have to say when it comes to pure storytelling and understanding how to handle foreshadowing and just characterizations that change, characters, in fact, that change age and, the timeline of what they're doing many times within one single story and pull it off without issues that maybe we faced in Quantum Break or others. Fantastic. Just an incredible job. So anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys like these videos. Like I said, if you did, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. And as always, let's let the worst burglars in the world smash this door loudly to get in. And peace out.